What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today we had the long-awaited press conference of Adam Peters. So far, everything he said in the press conference I was on board with. It was like, he was saying all the right things, talking all the right things, said that the coach was going to be, it's going to be a quick process because he had already started interviewing guys and everything like that. So he said that the coach will be here soon, which kind of worries me because Ben Johnson is still in the playoffs. Bobby Slowick is still in the playoffs. So the fact that he's talking about the coach is going to be here soon, that concerns me a little bit. Because now that tells me that maybe Bobby Slowick or maybe Ben Johnson may not be the coaches. Because he said that he was interviewing guys. Now, don't get me wrong. You can video chat and video interview these guys, but to be so confident that you're going to be hiring a coach really soon is troublesome for me, because we don't know how long Detroit is actually going to be in the playoffs and if they'll make the Super Bowl. We don't know how long Houston could be in the playoffs. To be quite honest, these teams might see each other in the Super Bowl, then what? So for me, it's like I was on board with what he was saying, what he was talking about, everything he brought up. Then he says something that for me drops a bomb. Now, I know I'm probably one of the only people who actually listens and listens intently to stuff. When people say it, I've always been told that when when you let a person talk, 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you what their intentions are, especially if you let them talk enough. So when it comes down to it, and this may be me now losing a job in the scouting department, but I'm tired of everybody coming to Washington and trying to promise the fan base something that they can't really hold up. And not only that, I'm tired of people bringing stuff to us and not understanding that we're a smart enough fan base to understand certain situations. Now, for most of us as the fan base, we all understand that a rebuild needs to happen. We understand this. We understand it's going to take some time. We're going to have some growing pains. The reason we're so mad and frustrated is because so many people have come in, promised stuff, and we've seen that those promises are not kept because at the end of the day, you're promising too much. Sometimes it's okay to come into a situation and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to promise this because you know why? I don't see a need to. Adam Peters was having a very, very good press conference in my eyes. He was hitting all the points. He was saying everything that I wanted to hear. Like I said, even with the whole coaching thing, I was still like, you know what? I'll pay attention to you saying that, but I'm not going to hold that against you. Then he says, we don't have to do a full rebuild here. And that gave me pause. That made me sit up there and question, what does he mean by that? Because we have a ton of free agents on this squad right now. We traded away some of our best defensive guys in season. You're talking about Sadiq Charles we got 5 guys from that 2020 draft still on his team. Five. I think it's 5. No, I think it's actually 4. Sadiq Charles, Antonio Gibson, Cam Curl, and James Smith-Williams. So it's 4. We got and Kaliki Hudson. So it is 5. And Kaliki Hudson. We got 5 guys from that 2020 draft still on this team. And we're in a situation where all those guys are actually going to be free agents next year. Every last one of them is going to be a free agent. And that's only the 5 guys. Then you're talking about, you got guys like who more than likely you're going to release. And there's not enough guys that you have on rookie deals that's going to make any sense. Jamin Davis, you got to make a decision on him next year. Next year, you got to make a decision if you're going to extend him to the 5th-year contract. You got to make that decision next year. Then you're talking about guys like Cody Barton, more than likely won't be here. David Mayo, more than likely won't be here. Kendall Fuller, more than likely won't be here. You got to make a decision on Benjamin St. Juste next year. You got to make a decision on Samuel Cosme coming next. You got a lot of guys you got to make decisions on next year. And understand this, like, as a fan base, we get it. We get what a rebuild is. We get what needs to be done in a rebuild. We also understand that the cupboard here is pretty bare. Yes, we got $80 million in cap space. Guess what? We still don't have the quarterback of the future, and we don't expect for the quarterback of the future to actually come in and start playing immediately unless you hire a coach who can actually develop and win at the same time. So it actually bothered me that he said that a full rebuild isn't needed here. Here's a promise that somebody else has done that wasn't needed. He could have just sat in a press conference and said, you know what, we're going to do everything we can to build a championship team here, and left it at that. All of us have come to grips with the fact that a rebuild is going to be needed. All of us have come to the conclusion that a rebuild is going to be needed. All of us have accepted that a rebuild is needed. But then when you come in here and you tell us that a full rebuild isn't needed, and we're all sitting here like, wait a minute, we don't have a quarterback here. That's a very key position. His backup, we're not really certain what his backup is because his backup faltered. We have no real linebackers. We're down to 2 defensive linemen, and one has verbally made it clear he doesn't want to be here for a rebuild. So who are you really trying to get to understand this? I mean, is that your way of trying to comfort Jonathan Allen? Because understand this, Jonathan Allen isn't a stupid man. He knows exactly what's going on. Even himself, with him making the comment, he made the comment understanding that a rebuild needed to be made to make this team better. And in the process, it puts him on the chopping block. We don't have superstar top level quality players at all the positions. We got maybe a few at a few positions. So when you make a promise and you say something like, we don't need a full rebuild, now you're going to have a problem, because now you're going to have a fan base holding you to something. That was the issue with Ron Rivera. He promised too much and wasn't able to achieve anything. Last year he promised the fan base that Sam Howell was the guy. And slowly but steadily, as the season went on, everybody found out that he wasn't the guy, even to the point at where Ron found out he wasn't the guy and benched him 2 straight games. Adam Peters, as a fan base, we don't need promises. As a fan base, we don't need you to come in here and tell us that we don't need a full rebuild. In fact, we would be fine if you said, hey, we're gonna rebuild. We have to rebuild. We have to rebuild this team. We have to do what we need to do. But instead, you said a full rebuild isn't needed. Even the players on the team know that that's not the truth. I hate the fact that I'm always the person listening. I hate the fact that I'm always the person reading. I hate the fact that I'm always the one that pays attention to stuff. Understand this, y'all. My background, I've been in the legal world for years. I was basically raised by attorneys because I worked around them forever. From the time I was in high school, I had a part-time job working in law firms in high school. So I was raised by these people for a very long time. In fact, I worked with the guy who created the G League when it was initially called the D League. And I remember when they were making the trademarks and everything for this league. I remember him putting it in. And if you don't believe me, the guy's name is John Dodge. And if you don't believe me, look it up. I worked with John Dodge for years as he came up with the D League, which is now the NBA's G League. I've been around these people for a long time. So guess what? I know when to listen to stuff and when you hear something to say, why'd he say that? What was the point of him saying that? He made it a point of saying that. Why would he say that? Again, I liked everything he was saying until he said that. I'm tired of people thinking that we're a dumb fan base. We're not a dumb fan base. And again, a lot of us has sat up here and we're okay with people saying we were rebuilding. We were fine with it. We were fine with it. We were okay with us all focusing on the fact that, hey, a full rebuild was in place. Most of us were all saying, hey, y'all, we got to have some patience in the next coming years because we're going through a full rebuild. Then you come in and say, by the way, this doesn't need a full rebuild. Okay. Now we're going to have to hold you to something. And it's going to be something that, by the way, we didn't need you to say. We as a fan base were fine with the rebuild. We were all going to be coming back. Dan Snyder was gone. Ron Rivera was gone. We understood that we were going to be on our way to building a champion the proper way. And then you throw this monkey wrench into this system. Again, I don't think Adam Peters is a stupid man. I don't think he's a dummy. I don't think he's not intelligent. But I think that he should not have made a promise. Because again, we're not now with you saying that, we now have to look at it as a possible Houston Texans situation. We go from worst to first next year. That means the right quarterback. That means signing as many possible free agents that can make us the best there is. Especially in a year where the free agent offensive line market is basically at zero. We didn't need a promise that all of us were okay with understanding. A full rebuild was needed. And at the end of the day, if we turned around in a short amount of time, we would have been more excited because there were no timelines attached to it. But now when you say there's no full rebuild and us as fans are looking around like, who do we have other than Terry McLaurin, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne? Who do we have that is under contract? We have our possible backup quarterback, our superstar wide receiver, and 2 defensive linemen. We got no edges. All our edges, which is actually funny because I think about women when they say edges, but all our DNs are all free agents. They're all free agents. Some of our backup defensive linemen are free agents. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hate to be the doom and gloom guy, but there's just times where it's like, sometimes I just wish that people would just don't say nothing. In the words of a great man, maybe if you stood there and said nothing, they would have let you out because they would have thought you was a horse. Only the real people will know where I got that line from. But again, sometimes we don't need you to talk. We just need you to do. And sometimes it's best to not overpromise. It's best to underpromise. So we're not sitting here expecting more when you make a comment like the full rebuild isn't needed. Y'all tell me what y'all think. What do y'all think about, like, what are y'all expecting for this next year? Especially, how do y'all feel when you hear the phrase a full rebuild isn't needed in Washington? How do y'all feel? When you hear that phrase, what comes through your mind? Does what come through your mind is a Houston Texans from worst to first type of situation? Or are you guys okay with saying maybe he just misspoke right there? Y'all tell me what y'all think. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.